was a time when I had a lot of money and a lot of time, and I thought, what the hell, I'll go do something, you know? And Dolly and I we used to laugh about it.
He wasn't just a singer, he was a feeling to his fans. Remember Kenny Rogers, the man whose songs could make you smile, cry, and think all at once? With his white beard and kind eyes, he became a legend in country music and beyond. But how he spent his final days will leave you heartbroken. Far from the cheering crowds and bright lights, Kenny was quietly facing the hardest part of life. Behind the fame were quiet battles, his health fading, time slipping away, and a heart full of memories. He gave the world his music, but in the end, all he wanted was peace, family, and love. Join us as we uncover how a true legend spent his final days and why everyone remembers him till this day. Final moments leading to his death. Kenny Rogers spent over 5 decades making music that touched hearts all around the world. With songs like Lucille, Lady, and The Gambler, he didn't just sing, he told stories that people could feel deep down. His voice had a way of staying with you, and for years, it became part of many people's lives. But toward the end of his journey, his health began to slowly decline. In 2018, during the final leg of his farewell tour, things started to change. Kenny had to step away from the stage. His body was beginning to wear down, and continuing with live shows just wasn't possible anymore. Fans were left wondering what was happening, and soon, all sorts of stories started to spread online. People began making guesses, some of them wild and far from the truth. The talk became so loud that Kenny's team had to speak up. They released a statement to calm everyone down. It explained that Kenny had gone into a hospital in Georgia, not because of something life-threatening, but because he was dehydrated. His condition, they said, was being managed, and he was expected to be fine. They wanted people to know he was still around and had plans to stay for many more years. For a while, that message brought a lot of comfort. But sadly, that hope didn't last very long. Less than a year later, on March 20th, 2020, Kenny Rogers took his final breath. At that time, he was 81 years old. His family shared that he passed away peacefully in his home, surrounded by those who loved him most. His wife, Wanda Miller, and his 5 children were with him in his final moments, holding on to him with love and quiet strength. His passing was gentle and calm, just like the man he had always been. Because of the health crisis going on at the time, there was no large funeral. The family couldn't gather fans to say goodbye in the way they had hoped. Instead, they planned a small private ceremony, promising that one day they would find a way to celebrate Kenny's life with the people who had loved him from afar. Though his voice fell silent, the music never stopped playing. His songs, his stories, and his spirit continued to live on in every melody. His family, along with countless fans across the world, kept his memory alive with love, remembering the man who gave so much through his music and kindness. And one of those moments came from the way his sister reacted to the shock of his death. Recounting unforgettable memories. After Kenny Rogers passed away, his sister Sandy found it hard to believe he was truly gone. Her heart was heavy, but she wanted to do something special in his memory. So she became part of a heartfelt 2-hour documentary dedicated to honoring his life. It was called Biography: Kenny Rogers. The project was filmed while Kenny was still alive, and it gave viewers a rare look behind the scenes, especially footage from his 2017 farewell concerts. Alongside that, it featured interviews with some of the people who knew him best, including his close friend, Dolly Parton. When asked why she chose to take part in the documentary, Sandy made it clear that for her, there was never a question. She would have done anything for her big brother. Kenny had always been there for her and their family, so joining the project felt natural. That's how they were raised, always looking out for each other. Sandy and her twin brother were much younger than Kenny, so growing up, they didn't spend as much time with him. But that didn't stop them from collecting some unforgettable memories. She recalled one funny moment from childhood, seeing Kenny walk into the kitchen and drink straight from a big jug of milk. That image stuck with her over the years and still made her laugh. Their real bonding happened later, especially during spring breaks when she and her twin would visit him in Las Vegas. Those visits let them see a different side of Kenny, not the performer on stage, but the warm, funny, down-to-earth brother they loved. One of Sandy's favorite moments was when she attended his show at Sam Houston State University. Kenny arranged a Greyhound bus to pick up her and the family from their home. She was still in junior high then, and it amazed her to see just how many people came to hear him sing. They always knew he had talent, but the size of the crowd blew them away. That concert ended with a hilarious memory. As Kenny was taking his final bow, their father unexpectedly walked onto the stage and started bowing with him. Kenny had to remind him whose show it was. That little moment became one of those family stories they would laugh about for years. Another beautiful memory was when Kenny invited Sandy and her twin into the studio to sing backup vocals during one of his recordings. They even started giving him suggestions on how to improve the song, which made him chuckle. He jokingly told them they'd barely been in the studio for half an hour and were already acting like they deserved royalties. It turned into a running joke that lasted for years. Sandy often reflected on how Kenny's success changed their family's life. Thanks to him, they had the chance to travel, meet celebrities, and go places they never imagined. One sweet story she shared involved Kenny's dear friend and music partner, Dottie West. Dottie used to visit their mother in the countryside. Their mom adored her and often took her fishing. But Dottie had a unique way of showing up, always in high heels. Their mom would shake her head and tell her she needed different shoes, but that was just Dottie's style. When it came to Kenny's biggest hits, Sandy had a special fondness for The Gambler. She thought it was catchy, fun, and full of meaning. She remembered how one radio host once said he'd never seen a singer turn a single song into 5 movies. But the story that made her laugh the most was about the song Lucille. Their mother's name was Lucille, and when Kenny first played the song for Sandy, she didn't think it would do well. She told him it didn't sound right, but that song went on to make $20 million. Sandy would laugh later and admit how wrong she'd been. In Kenny's later years, he often talked about retiring. He'd say he was going to step away from the spotlight the next year, but when that year came, he kept going. Sandy believed deep down he didn't really want to stop performing. He just felt it was time. But more than anything, he wanted to be with his wife Wanda and their sons, to enjoy the simple joys of family life. During the filming of the documentary, Sandy said Kenny was still doing well. He even teased her about her new hair color, asking why she hadn't done it sooner. That was the kind of man he was. Even when things were tough, his warmth and sense of humor never faded. He remained gentle, thoughtful, and full of love, all the way to the end. But then, do not allow his gentle life and smiles deceive you, because his life before the spotlight was anything but peaceful. So, to know more about what turned him into the fellow we all knew, let's explore deeper about his life. A difficult childhood and upbringing. Kenny Rogers was born in Houston, Texas, on August 21, 1938. He was the fourth of 8 children in a big family. His mother, Lucille, worked as a nurse's aide, and his father, Edward, earned a living as a carpenter. Life wasn't easy for them. They lived in public housing meant for white families, built over the homes of people of color. Kenny once said their family had very little. They were truly poor. But even with those hardships, they found ways to keep going. He went to Wharton Elementary, then George Washington Junior High, and later finished high school at Jefferson Davis in 1956. That was a huge milestone because no one else in his family had ever graduated from high school before. While growing up, Kenny worked hard to support himself. He swept floors in a hat shop for just $9 a week. He worked as a busboy at the Rice Hotel, and when he was just a kid, he even won a talent contest at the Texan Theater, a small glimpse of what was to come. Even though his stomach was never completely empty, there were times when nutrition was almost non-existent. Some days, peanut butter sandwiches were all they had. But Kenny didn't complain. He believed that most kids in his neighborhood lived the same way. Still, it was a tough upbringing, emotionally and financially. People close to him never forgot how much they had to endure. He grew up in Houston's 4th Ward, a place where trouble was often just around the corner. His brother Roy once said without hesitation, "They were definitely poor." His sister Sandy remembered the struggles too, but she also spoke about how their faith kept them strong. It was their belief in something bigger than themselves that helped them hold on, even when things felt impossible. The people in his neighborhood played a big part in shaping who Kenny became. Even though times were hard, there was a lot of heart in that community, and Kenny never forgot the kindness shown to him. In the 1970s, after he had become a star, he heard that a neighbor from back then was in a bad place financially. Her car had broken down and she couldn't afford to fix it. She only needed $600, but Kenny sent her $20,000 along with a note thanking her for helping him pay his rent years earlier. That was just who he was. It wasn't about showing off. It was about showing up for people who mattered. He never looked down on anyone. That genuine kindness made fans love him even more. One of his closest bonds was with Dolly Parton. They shared something deep. Both came from difficult backgrounds, but instead of letting those hard times break them, they turned their pain into something beautiful. For decades, Kenny and Dolly remained close. Some people believed they were something beyond friends, but Kenny always said theirs was a friendship built on deep understanding. They had both known what it meant to have nothing and to fight for every bit of success. That shared experience brought them closer, and it also made their music timeless. Kenny Rogers never forgot where he came from, and that humility stayed with him until the very end. Through the fame, the bright lights, and the applause, he remained the boy from Houston who knew what it meant to struggle and never stopped caring for others because of it. Unfortunately for him, aside from suffering to make ends meet, Kenny also struggled to get to know his father, and that broke him more than the days he had no food, avoiding to live like his father. Kenny Rogers didn't just grow up in a home where money was tight. His childhood was also shaped by something much deeper. His father, Edward, struggled with drinking, and that left a mark on Kenny that never truly faded. Years later, in his book published in 2012, Kenny opened up about that painful part of his life. He explained that he never allowed himself to drink, not because he wasn't curious, but because he was afraid. He believed there might be something in his family's bloodline, something that could pull him down the same path his father had taken. That fear became a quiet promise he kept his whole life. Even as he reached incredible heights in music and gained worldwide fame, one question continued to follow him. Why had his father turned to alcohol in the first place? He spent his life wondering what had pushed his dad to that edge. Kenny knew his father had been a good man, who just couldn't cope with the weight of his circumstances. After the Second World War, jobs were scarce, and many men were left feeling hopeless. His dad had a family to care for, but couldn't find the means to provide, and over time, that burden seemed to crush him. Kenny carried the sorrow of not understanding that struggle until it was too late. That regret stayed with him. He wished he had known the real pain behind his father's choices while he was still alive. But instead of letting that pain harden his heart, Kenny chose a different path. He found healing in other ways. He took up photography to fill the quiet spaces between tours, and through the lens, he started to see the world in a more personal, human way. When he came across people battling addiction, he didn't criticize or turn away. He had lived through it up close, and it made him more compassionate. His understanding ran deep, and that kindness found its way into everything he did, from the words in his songs to the friendships he nurtured, and even in the quiet moments when he said nothing at all. Those hidden scars, the ones that came from his childhood and his family's struggles, became a bridge between him and the people who listened to his music. Fans felt his honesty because it came from real pain, and instead of hiding it, Kenny allowed that pain to shape him into someone who could not only entertain, but truly connect with others, no matter who they were or where they came from. Now, if you've ever wondered how Kenny got so popular, well, this is your chance to know how everything happened. Dreams finally became reality. Kenny Rogers started chasing his dream of becoming a musician back in the late 1950s. His journey began with small steps, not huge leaps. In 1957, he released a solo track called That Crazy Feeling, and for a short while it gained some attention. But as the excitement faded, Kenny didn't let disappointment push him away. Instead of walking away from music, he leaned in deeper. He joined a jazz group called the Bobby Doyle Three, where he played and performed regularly at local clubs. The group built a loyal following, and eventually, they even signed a deal with Columbia Records. For a moment, it seemed like things were finally taking off. But that moment didn't last. The group ended up parting ways in 1965. Still, Kenny wasn't ready to give up. He tried going solo again and released a song titled Here's That Rainy Day through Mercury Records in 1966, but it didn't catch on. So he found other ways to stay in the music scene. He started working behind the curtain, writing, producing, and even playing instruments for other performers like Mickey Gilley and Eddie Arnold. Even if he wasn't in the spotlight, he never stepped away from the art. Later in 1966, Kenny gave it another shot and joined a folk group known as the New Christy Minstrels. He played bass and sang, but things still weren't clicking the way he had hoped. So, in 1967, Kenny and three other members, Mike Settle, Terry Williams, and Thelma Camacho, left the group and formed a new band. They called themselves the First Edition, and eventually, Kinvasi joined them too. This new group changed everything. They released a song with a wild psychedelic twist called Just Dropped In to see what condition my condition was in, and it became a hit. Kenny's rich voice stood out and gave the song an unforgettable edge. Years later, that same track would even be featured in the film The Big Lebowski. The success of that single marked the start of something big for Kenny. As time passed, he slowly became the main face of the First Edition. The band began moving toward country music with songs like Ruby, Don't Take Your Love to Town, and Reuben James. Their sound evolved, and their audience grew. But by 1975 or 1976, the group called it quits. That moment was a turning point for Kenny. He was already in his late 30s and knew that starting over again wouldn't be easy. He decided to go solo once more, but this time it came with new challenges. Record companies kept telling him no. They said he was too old to start fresh in country music. Each rejection hit hard, but Kenny didn't let the words define him. He kept going. At one point, he was performing in a small lounge in Las Vegas that could only seat 600 people. During that time, Steve Wynn, who had booked him there, gave Kenny an unexpected message. He told Kenny he wouldn't keep him in that lounge, not because he wasn't talented, but because he believed Kenny had the potential to do much more. He encouraged him to go bigger, to dream louder. That push made a difference. Kenny finally got his big break when he teamed up with producer Larry Butler. Together, they created Lucille, a song that would change Kenny's life forever. It became a huge success and even won him a Grammy. Kenny made sure to thank Butler during his Grammy speech, fully aware that this moment might never have happened without him. That hit opened the floodgates to many more unforgettable songs. And from that point forward, Kenny never looked back. His voice, his passion, and his persistence carried him from small clubs to the biggest stages in the world. A career carved in gold. After his marriage to Lucille ended, Kenny Rogers didn't just rise to fame, he soared. He became a legend in both country and pop music, stacking up over 60 songs that made it to the top 40 charts. Two of his most unforgettable hits were Lady and Islands in the Stream. The latter, sung with Dolly Parton, grew into one of the most cherished duets the world has ever known. Then there was The Gambler, released in 1978, a song that didn't just win him a Grammy, but went on to define his entire career. It wasn't just a song. It turned into a cultural icon, inspiring a string of television movies where Kenny himself played the title role. The performance was so beloved, it even earned an Emmy nomination. People fell in love with that character and what the song represented. It was more than music. It was a message people carried with them for years. Two of his albums, The Gambler and Kenny, earned a place among the 200 most impactful country music albums ever recorded. In 1986, his fans showed their deep love for him in a big way, voting him as their all-time favorite singer in a massive poll run by USA Today and People magazines. But Kenny's talents didn't stop at music. He stepped into acting with ease, taking roles in movies like Six Pack and shows like McShane that showcased his charm on screen. And while he entertained on stage and screen, he also made business moves. He partnered with a former KFC CEO to start a chain of restaurants called Kenny Rogers Roasters. Although the branches in America eventually shut down, the brand kept thriving in Asia. Still, music was where his heart truly stayed. In 2006, he dropped another album, Water and Bridges. One of the songs from it, I Can't Unlove You, performed well on the charts. The entire album made waves, landing in the top 5 for country album sales and even breaking into the top 15 on the Billboard 200. Even as he aged, Kenny never really stepped away from the spotlight. He continued performing, traveling from city to city, singing his heart out until 2017, when he finally decided it was time to stop. By then, he had spent more than 60 years doing what he loved. From rock and roll to jazz, from country roots to mainstream pop. He didn't just try different styles, he made each one his own. Yet, beyond all the fame and standing ovations, there were moments in his life that stayed really inconsistent. Behind his warm smile and strong voice was a man who juggled various relationships and marriages like it was nothing. And this particular part of life baffled his fans to some extent. So, let's know why he had to marry several times before he found a permanent partner. Kenny's different love stories. Kenny Rogers walked through love many times in his life, marrying 5 women and becoming a father to 5 children. His first marriage was back in 1958 to Janice Gordon, and not long after, they welcomed their daughter, Carol Lynn. But that chapter closed just 2 years later. Soon after, he tied the knot again, this time with a woman named Jean. Sadly, that marriage didn't last either. It was over by 1963. In 1964, Kenny tried again, marrying Margot Anderson. Their time together brought another child into the world. For a while, it seemed like things might work out, but that relationship too ended in 1975. Then came his 4th marriage, this time to actress Marianne Gordon in 1977. Together they had a son, Christopher, and for a while it looked like Kenny had found something solid. But by 1993, that union had also come to an end. It wasn't until 1997 that Kenny met Wanda Miller, the woman who would become his 5th and final wife. They shared a deep bond and raised twin sons together. Wanda stayed by his side until the very end, becoming not just his partner, but his constant through the final years of his life. Kenny didn't shy away from the truth about his marriages. In his own words, he admitted that the fault wasn't with the women he married, but with himself. He explained that he often got wrapped up in chasing his dreams. The pressure of his music career, the constant travel, and the personal ambition that drove him sometimes left little room for the kind of connection a marriage needs to survive. Each time he said, "I do," he meant it with love. But the demands of fame and his own restlessness often came between him and the people he cared about. His 4th wife, Marianne, once shared how deeply Kenny had cared for her during their time together. He gave her his attention and heart, but still, something inside him was unsettled. He felt like time was slipping through his fingers, like his career was fading. It was a hard period for him, filled with doubt and inner struggle. She believed he was going through a midlife crisis, and sadly, their divorce came not only with emotional pain, but also a significant financial price, reportedly around $60 million. Even with all those heartbreaks behind him, Kenny eventually found peace and stability with Wanda. But that relationship wasn't without its own challenges. Being in the spotlight brought questions and curiosity from the public. Still, through it all, Kenny held on to the love that lasted, and in his later years, he found comfort in the family he built with her. But something happened that added a different kind of regret to his heart. Fatherhood, second chances, and the weight of time. When Kenny Rogers got married to Wanda Miller, there was a noticeable age gap. She was nearly 3 decades younger than him. In fact, Wanda's parents were just a couple of years younger than Kenny himself, so it's no surprise they weren't exactly thrilled about the relationship at first. But as time passed, their views shifted, and Kenny came to deeply appreciate Wanda, not just as his partner, but as the loving mother of his twin boys. By 2015, Kenny made the tough call to step away from performing. He was 77, and his twins were only 11 years old. His health was starting to decline, and he realized that the most precious thing he could offer his children was time. Choosing between the spotlight and his family wasn't easy, but it became clear what mattered more. His ability to move around was getting worse, and he didn't want to miss out on their growing up years. Interestingly, Kenny and Wanda didn't plan on having kids when they first got together. But everything changed when Wanda reached 31. She started longing to become a mother, and Kenny agreed because he didn't want her to look back one day with regret. Still, deep inside, he had his worries. He knew he wouldn't be around forever, and the thought of not being present during the key moments of his son's futures, like college or marriage, troubled him more than he let on. Kenny had children from his earlier marriages, and he admitted that things hadn't gone as smoothly as he had hoped. He felt like he had missed out on a lot with them. His first child, Carol Lynn, was born when he was just 19. He had married her mother after finding out she was expecting, but after the marriage ended, Kenny decided to step away so he wouldn't interfere with her life or the bond she had formed with her stepdad. His relationship with Kenny Jr., his son from a later marriage, wasn't an easy one either. There were challenges between them that time never fully smoothed out. Things were a bit more peaceful with Christopher, the son he had with Marianne. Even after they split up, Kenny made it clear that he would always be his dad, no matter how often they saw each other. There was one moment that really captured Kenny's emotions. He once opened up about how much he loved being there for his young boys, watching them play football, cheering them on, just being present. It brought him joy, but also a quiet sadness. He felt he had lost those same chances with his older sons and quietly resented that time could never be brought back. Despite his best efforts and the love he poured into his family, not every decision he made led to the outcome he had hoped for. But one thing was clear: Kenny Rogers carried his fatherhood close to his heart, holding tightly to the moments he could never relive, and cherishing the ones he still had left. What do you think about this life story? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more videos like this.